Hare Krishna. So thank you, dear devotees, for kindly coming here to this wonderful Sunday feast program. I am especially thankful to all the wonderful devotees who are serving here in Sri Sri Radha Giridhari Mandir, especially the disciples of Srila Prabhupada who are present here today. His Holiness Jai Advaita Swami Maharaj, His Grace Dravida Prabhu, and all the wonderful resident devotees of the temple who are serving the temple in so many ways. My sincere thanks to all of you, and all the devotees who are visiting here on Sunday. Welcome all of you. Thank you for being present here today. It is a tradition to begin all programs with some auspicious invocations. So I will quickly chant some mantras for auspicious invocations, and we'll begin our topic today, which is dedicated to three most important practices of our spiritual life, which are Japa, Kirtan and Smarana. So, but before we begin, I'd like to quickly chant some auspicious invocations. Those of us who know these verses can kindly sing along with me. Om Ajnana-timirandhasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Soyam Rupah Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha Namam Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tarine Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratvishe Namaha. He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Okay, but I'm not connected to the internet. Okay. Hare Krishna. So welcome, dear devotees, once again. Thank you so much for being present here today. I've always said this, that between the speaker and the audience is more important in ensuring the success of the program. Because if on a certain day the speaker doesn't turn up, somebody else will be appointed as the speaker. But if on a certain day the audience doesn't turn up, then there will be no program. So it is the audience which is responsible for the success of the program. All of you are present here today as the audience. My sincere thanks to all of you. Today we are discussing a topic which is of utmost relevance to the practical spiritual life of all of us devotees, and that is Japa, Smaran, Japa, Kirtan and Smaran. Okay. Yeah. Hare Krishna. So, all of us must have heard about these three terms. If some of us have not heard about these terms, I will explain quickly. These three are very important spiritual practices in the life of a Vaishnava. The first is known as Japa. Japa refers to chanting on beads. Kirtan refers to audible chanting. And Smaran refers to remembrance of the Lord. These three are practices that we Gaudiya Vaishnavas especially execute in our sadhana bhakti. Now, between Japa, Kirtan and Smaran, we all should understand that there are some technical definitions that these terms have. And before I proceed ahead, I would like to quote Srila Prabhupada. And Srila Prabhupada has something to say about Japa, Kirtan and Smaran. So I would like to quote Srila Prabhupada, and Srila Prabhupada says the following about Japa, Kirtan and Smaran. So Prabhupada says in his introduction to Bhagavad Gita as it is, Prabhupada says, so Lord Krishna's instruction to Arjuna to remember me and Lord Chaitanya's injunction to always chant the names of Lord Krishna are the same instruction. There is no difference because Krishna and Krishna's names are non-different. In the absolute status, there is no difference between reference and referent. Therefore, we have to practice remembering the Lord always, 24 hours a day, by chanting His names and molding our life's activities in such a way that we can remember Him always. So, he is very clearly specifying here that the injunction to remember Lord Krishna and the injunction to always chant the names of Lord Krishna are practically one and the same injunction. Because once Japa or once Kirtan should inadvertently lead to Smaran or remembrance of the Lord. Ultimately, the instruction for all Vaishnavas is Smartavyaha Satatam Vishnur Vismartavyo na Jatuchit. Always remember Krishna and never forget Krishna. So first, I would like to begin with these three topics, Japa, Kirtan and Smaran. These are the most important limbs of our bhajan. And first, I would like to begin with the definition of Japa. Many of us understand Japa to be an activity which is commonly translated as chanting. But there is also a technical definition of Japa, and this definition has been given in a Gaudiya Vaishnava literature. The name of the literature is Gaura Govinda Archana Smarana Paddhati. In the Gaura Govinda Archana Smarana Paddhati, it defines Japa in a very beautiful way, and this definition is in front of us. I will chant the verse. Kindly repeat after me. Mano madhye sthito mantro mantra madhye sthitam manah mano mantra samayuktam etadhi japalakshanam. Very simple definition. Mano madhye sthito mantro. The mantra firmly situated within the mind. Mantra madhye sthitam manah. The mind firmly fixed within the mantra. Mano mantra samayuktam. Such a seamless combination of the mind and mantra. Etadhi, this itself is Japa Lakshanam, the characteristic of ideal Japa. A very concise and sweet definition of Japa as mentioned in the Gaura Govinda Archana Smaran Paddhati. Mano madhye sthito mantro, mantra madhye sthita mana, mano mantra samayuktam etadhi japa lakshanam. Here is the translation. The mantra firmly situated in the mind firmly situated in the mantra. Such a seamless connection of the mind and mantra is the characteristic of ideal japa. So if we remember this one definition of japa or chanting, this one definition is sufficient to lead us to ideal chanting in our day-to-day lives. The mantra should be firmly fixed in the mind should be firmly fixed in the mantra. And we should also try to explore this topic further. What is ideal japa? Srila Prabhupada, in one of his conversations, cited what is ideal japa. He spoke about what is ideal japa, and I would like to specify this reference from Srila Prabhupada. Is there any devotee who can read out, Prabhuji? Do we have a mic? Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Sorry, Prabhu. Yeah. Prabhu, can you please read? Yes.
Prabhupada, when we first got to chant Hare Krishna, a way to concentrate is to just concentrate on the vibration. Should we try to strive for
Prabhupada says,
Prabhupada? No, concentrate on the vibration. Simply hear. It is very easy. If I say Hare, you can hear, even without concentration. It is so easy. Devotee, but Prabhupada, but if you hear attentively, that is required.
it's very important. Sometimes we say ideal chanting is just chant and hear. But Prabhupada adds an adverb to the verb hear. Prabhupada says not only hear, chant and hear attentively. So sometimes just saying chant and hear is not sufficient. It is important to add the condition chant and hear attentively. And if we are able to hear our own chanting attentively, it means that there is a third element involved. First is the mouth who chants, second is the ear that hears, third is the mind. These three elements should be involved in ideal japa: the mouth, the ears, and the mind. So this is the tripod for performing ideal japa or chanting of our mantra. So dear devotees, these are the three limbs or the tripod of ideal japa. First is the mind, the mouth, the ears, and the mind. If even one of these is missing, then it may not be possible to chant ideal japa. If the mouth is missing, the individual may not be able to chant. If the ears are missing, the individual may not be able to hear. And if the mind is missing, then definitely there will be no focus on japa. So these three are the three limbs of ideal japa. Now somebody may say, are these three specified somewhere by the previous acharyas? So yes, the previous authorities also speak of these three limbs of ideal japa. Srila Rupa Goswami, he in his Vidagdha Madhava Natakam, he glorifies the holy name, and he specified a very beautiful verse in which he has specified these three limbs of ideal chanting. This verse is in the meter Shardula Vikriditam. I will try to chant this verse. Kindly repeat after me. Tunde Tandaviniratim Vitanute Tundavali Labdhaye Tundavali Labdhaye कर्णक्रोडकडम्बिनी घटयते कर्णार्बुदेभ्यः स्पृहां Chetah prangana sangini vijayate sarvendriyanam kritim. No jane janita ki yadbhiramritai krishneti varnadvai. Neti varnadvai. Sri Rupa Goswami says that the two syllables, Krish and Na, these are the two syllables of the name of Krishna. Krishneti varnadvai. He says they have some special characteristics. This name Krishna has some very special characteristic. He says Tunde, when it first enters into the mouth, Tandavini ratim vitanute, it dances on the mouth with great pleasure. Dear devotees, when somebody dances around in great pleasure, ratim vitanute, he distributes immense pleasure to everyone who is in the assembly. Dear devotees, the holy name is dancing in the assembly of the mouth, and in the assembly of the mouth, there are 32 dvijas. Dvija means twice born. One meaning of dvija is Brahmana, another meaning of dvija is teeth, because teeth also take birth how many times? Twice. So, dear devotees, the holy name dances in the assembly of the mouth in front of 32 dvijas. And after dancing, the holy name wants to receive some prize for dancing so nicely. Previously, when dancers used to dance, they would receive some prize from the audience. So what prize does the holy name desire? Tundavali labdhaye. It says it wants many more such mouths for dancing. So the holy name is such that when it enters the assembly of the mouth, it dances around joyously, it distributes joy, and in return it expects many more mouths to dance similarly. Karna kroda. Secondly, when it enters the ear holes, kadambini ghatayate. It grows rapidly like the kadambi shak. What is kadambi shak? Water spinach. It grows very quickly like the water spinach. So if some of us have not seen how water spinach grows, then I will show today in this presentation. Karna kroda kadambini ghatayate. When the holy name enters into the ear holes, it quickly sprouts like the water spinach. And what does it desire? Karnar budebhyah spriham. It desires many more millions of years for further growth. Chetah prangana. Finally, when the holy name enters the mind and the heart, Sangini, it becomes a constant companion of the mind and the heart. Vijayate, and it takes over. Sarvendriyanam kritim, the activities of all other senses. So when it enters the mind, it takes over the activities of all other senses. Sri Rupa Goswami finally says, No jane, I do not know. Janita kiyad bhir amritai. How many varieties of nectar have gone into the production of these two syllables, Krish and Na. So dear devotees, this is the translation. Prabhu, can you please read?
When the bisyllable name Krishna enters the mouth, it dances around and desires many more mouths as its reward. On entering the ear holes, it sprouts like the kadambi saka, water spinach, and exhibits a desire for tens of millions of ears. Finally, when it enters the courtyard of the mind, it becomes the faithful companion of the soul and takes over the activities of all other senses. I do not know how many varieties of nectar have gone into the formation of this bisyllable name.
So a very sweet description. I have highlighted three terms there: mouth, ears, and mind. Dear devotees, these are the three important limbs for chanting Krishna Nam. The first is mouth, the second is ears, and the third is the mind. For those of us who do not know what is kadambi shak, what is water spinach, it it is such a plant, it grows so rapidly that it doesn't leave even a tiny fraction of space for further growth. So this, dear devotees, is Kadambi. Karna Kroda Kadambini. It is like a water spinach growing in the space of the ear holes. And what does the water spinach desire? It desires further space for expansion. So similarly, the holy name also desires further space for expansion, and it desires millions and millions of more such ears. This, dear devotees, is the ideal chanting as specified by Srila Rupa Goswami. Moving ahead, actually chanting Krishna Nam, chanting Japa is of three types as specified in Shastra. What are the three types specified in the scriptures? I will specify these three and you kindly repeat these three names. The first type is known as Vachika. The second is known as Upamshu. And the third is known as Manasika. What is Vachika Japa? What is Vachika chanting? So I will explain and we will easily practice it. For example, in Vachika chanting, Vachika means loud and audible. In Vachika chanting, the person who is chanting Krishna's names, his mouth clearly opens, his tongue moves, he makes a voice audible enough so that another person can hear. Such type of a chanting is described as Vachika, or the audible variation of chanting. So let's chant together Vachika so that everybody can hear. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. This variety of chanting Krishna's names is known as Vachika Japa or audible Japa. The second type of Japa is known as Upamshu. What is Upamshu? In Upamshu Japa, the lips, they move slightly, the tongue moves slightly. One chants only loud enough so that one can hear oneself. A second person should not be able to hear us. This type of chanting is known as Upamshu Japa. For example, I will specify, in the mic you will be able to hear me, but without the mic, I will only be able to hear myself. So if I chant, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. This type of a japa is categorized as the second type, known as Upamshu Japa. The third type of japa is known as Manasika Japa. In Manasika Japa, the mouth doesn't move at all. The mouth is closed. The tongue may move inside a little bit, but otherwise sometimes the tongue doesn't move at all. What does the sadhaka, the practitioner, do? He closes his eyes, he visualizes the names being chanted as alphabets in front of his mind. And while visualizing the characters of the mantra, he chants through the mind itself. This is known as Manasika Japa. Now I will chant on the mic. You please do not respond. While closing your eyes, please visualize the syllables of the mantra, and then we will try to chant one mantra in the Manasik way. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. This, dear devotees, when the mouth doesn't move at all, when the chanter itself is the mind and the receiver is the mind, this type of a chanting is known as Manasika. Sometimes a question is asked, are we allowed to chant mantra in this manner, in the Manasika way? So the answer is yes. Those devotees who are second initiated, who are initiated into Brahmin mantras, they chant their second initiation mantras mostly in the Manasika style or the mental style. But when it comes to chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra, we either chant in the Vachika way, the audible way, or the Upamshu, the silent manner. So these three are three methods of chanting japa for all sadhakas. Question arises, which one of these three is considered as the best type of chanting by the previous acharyas? Is Vachika considered as the best type of chanting japa? Is Upamshu considered as the best japa? Or is Manasika considered as the best japa? In reply to this, the Hari Bhakti Vilas says, Shreyan Syad Uttarottarah, that Upamshu is better than Vachika and Manasika is better than Upamshu. So the second is better than the first and the third is better than the second. But in our society, ISKCON, since we have to chant 16 rounds of Hare Krishna Mahamantra, there is a large quantity to be chanted. Therefore, it is recommended to chant either in the Vachika, audible way, or the Upamshu, or the soft manner of chanting. Manasika is very difficult to chant, especially to chant 16 rounds of Manasika is very difficult. Therefore, we prefer to chant our 16 rounds in the first or the second method, Vachika or Upamshu. Dear devotees, an Acharya named Sri Sanatan Goswami comments upon this as follows. He says, Vachika, Upamshu, Manasika, Bhedena. These are the three divisions which I showed. Vachika, Upamshu and Manasika. Trividhasya Japasya Madhe. Amongst these three types, he says, actually, the middle japa, Oshtha Chalanena Shanair Uchcharana Upamshu Japo. Actually, ideal japa is Upamshu, soft chanting. Why is soft chanting the most ideal? He says, Vachikasya Kirtana Antargatatvat. Actually, Vachika doesn't fall exactly in the category of japa. Vachika falls more in the category of Kirtan. Manasikasya cha Smarana Atmakatvat. He says, and mental japa falls in the category of Smaran or remembrance. Therefore, ideal japa, 24 karat gold japa without any mixture of Kirtan or Smaran is Upamshu japa or soft chanting of Hare Krishna Mahamantra. This is the most preferred type of japa as mentioned in the Shastra by the Acharyas. Dear devotees, there is one difference between japa and kirtan. Japa is soft chanting. Kirtan is audible glorification, loud chanting of Krishna's names, forms, etc. In the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu and other literature such as Prema Vivarta, this difference has been specified. I will chant, please repeat after me. Laghu chare japa hai, uchchare kirtana. Laghu chare, soft chanting is known as japa. Uchchare, loud chanting becomes known as kirtana. This is the difference between japa and kirtana. Soft chanting becomes known as japa, loud chanting becomes known as kirtana. When it comes to kirtana, uchchai shatagunam bhavet. The louder it is, the more effective it is. But when it comes to japa, the softer it is, the better it is. These are the distinctions between chanting and performing kirtan. The Chaitanya Bhagavat again specifies the difference between japa and kirtan. Sometimes we confuse these two terms. Sometimes we say, I am chanting japa, so I am performing yuga dharma, the dharma of the age of Kali. But there is a difference between japa and kirtan. Actually, the dharma, yuga dharma, or the process for the age of Kali is kirtan, audible glorification of the Lord. So the Chaitanya Bhagavat very clearly declares. Please repeat after me. Japile Shri Krishna Naam Apana se tare Uchcha Sankirtane para Upakar kare. Japile, when one chants japa, Shri Krishna Naam, of Krishna's name, apane se tare, one delivers oneself. Uchcha Sankirtane, but when one chants Kirtan, Sankirtan, para upakar kare, one bestows favor upon others. So this distinction between japa and kirtan has been done by our previous acharyas. The Acharyas differentiate between the two terms, Japa and Kirtan. Japa clearly refers to soft chanting of Krishna's names, whereas Kirtan refers to loud, audible glorification of Krishna's names, form, qualities, pastimes, etc. Somebody may say, what does Srila Prabhupada like? What type of Japa did Srila Prabhupada prefer? So there is a very nice note about it in a book by Sri Satsvarup Das Goswami Maharaj, in a book called You Cannot Leave Boston. And Prabhu, can you please read what he said?
In order to hear the holy name distinctly, devotee would have to vibrate some sound. In his purport to Adi 1732, Prabhupada writes that chanting is simple, but it has to be taken seriously. He mentions how the lips should move and we should hear our own sound vibration. Prabhupada used the word silent to indicate soft. He did say, however, that loud or soft, our chanting should not disturb the spiritual master. Prabhupada became annoyed on occasion when his servants, secretaries, and other devotees were chanting too loudly when he was trying to work. When we chant, we have to learn to be simultaneously attentive and considerate towards others.
So this is an example from Sri Satsvarup Das Goswami Maharaj, who was often assisting Srila Prabhupada. And he noted something, that when Srila Prabhupada was working, he was doing his translations and purports, sometimes late in the night, he would hear other devotees chanting loudly. So Prabhupada sometimes would get a little annoyed with them and would tell them to chant softly. So actually, the best type of japa is that which does not disturb the spiritual master. And the most ideal type of japa, also described in Shastra, is upamshu. Upamshu, that is the soft variation of japa. This is what distinguishes japa from kirtan. As soon as we start chanting loudly, our purpose in mind has changed. Our purpose has changed from benefiting ourselves to benefiting others. And then it enters into the category of kirtan. But as long as the aim is to benefit oneself, till that point of time we will chant softly so that only we can hear. And then it remains within the category of japa. So this important distinction between japa and kirtan has to be noted by all the devotees, because this distinction has been made by all our previous acharyas. Now, dear devotees, having seen japa, we should also see the definition of kirtan. And kirtan is described in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu in a very simple verse. Please repeat after me. Nama Leela Gunadi Nam Uchchair Bhasha Tu Kirtanam. Uchchair Bhasha, audible glorification of Nama, Krishna's name, Leela, Krishna's pastimes, Guna, Krishna's qualities, Adi, etc., Krishna's abode, Krishna's associates, everything else connected to Krishna. This is known as Kirtanam. So whenever we chant audibly, that is known as Kirtan. Dear devotees, this means something. It means that someone who is giving a Bhagavatam class, somebody who is speaking something, is also performing Kirtan. Speaking a Srimad Bhagavatam class should also be considered as Kirtan. So speaking a class is Kirtan, chanting Harinam on the streets is Kirtan, distributing books is Kirtan. So any audible glorification of Krishna's name, form, qualities, pastimes, etc. is known as Kirtan. There is something else which is known as Sankirtan. What is Sankirtan? Sri Jiva Goswami says in the Bhakti Sandarbha, Bahubhir militva kirtanam, Sankirtanam iti uchyate. When many people get together and perform Kirtan, that is known as Sankirtan. Bahubhir is plural in case. Plural, the minimum for plural required is 3. So in English, sometimes 2 are required for plural. But in Sanskrit, the minimum required for plural is 3. Bahubhir means at least 3 people should get together. And when they get together and perform Kirtan, it is known as Sankirtan. That is the distinction between Kirtan and Sankirtan. So dear devotees, this is Kirtan. And the third limb of our bhajan, which we all should perform is known as Smaran. Smaran is remembrance of Krishna's names, forms, qualities, pastimes, etc. Our society is named International Society for Krishna Consciousness, which means that Krishna should always be within our consciousness. If Krishna is not within our consciousness, then we are not really fulfilling the purpose of being members of the society for Krishna consciousness. Srila Prabhupada derived this name International Society for Krishna Consciousness from a verse in the Padyavali, Krishna Bhakti Rasa Bhavita Matihi. That is the verse from where the name International Society for Krishna Consciousness was derived. What is Krishna Bhakti Rasa Bhavita Matihi? A mind which is fully absorbed in the transcendental rasas pertaining to Lord Krishna. A mind which is fully absorbed in thinking of Shri Krishna in a loving devotional way is known as Krishna Bhakti Rasa Bhavita Matihi. So this, dear devotees, is the third limb of bhajan named Smaran. And Sri Rupa Goswami also says in the Upadeshamrita Nectar of Instruction that all sadhakas, all practitioners should engage in Smaran. It is not that Smaran is only for the most advanced. Even for the new devotees, they should have some level of Smaran daily in their lives. Sri Rupa Goswami says in the Upadeshamrita, which is a text for beginners, in the 8th verse he says, Sukirtananu smrityaho. One should perform kirtana and one should perform anusmriti, repeated remembrance of Krishna. So all devotees should always also try to remember Krishna in their day-to-day lives. Especially when the devotees progress to higher stages of bhakti known as Raganuga Bhakti, the main limb of Raganuga Bhakti is Smaran. Raganuga is spontaneous devotional service. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, Smaranasya atra Raganugayam mukhyatvam. Actually, in Raganuga Bhakti, the main element of Raganuga Bhakti is Smaran. Why? Ragasya manodharmatvat. Because Raganuga Bhakti is primarily carried out through the mind. Therefore, the main element of Raganuga Bhakti is Smaran. Sri Narottam Das Thakur also says and gives an advice to all devotees. He says, Sadhana smarana lila ihate na karahela kaya mane kariya susar. Sadhana, your japa, your kirtan, and smarana, your remembrance, ihate na karohela. Do not neglect this at any point of time. Kaya mane kariya susar. Because of this, we will be able to perfect our spiritual identities within this lifetime. So it is very important for all sadhakas to also perform smarana or remembrance of Krishna. Dear devotees, in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Sri Rupa Goswami confirms this. I will recite this verse, kindly repeat after me. Krishnam smaranjanam chasya prishtham nijasamihitam tattat katharataschasau kuryad vasam vraje sada.
Translation: while remembering Krishna and his specific associates that are dear to him, as well as to oneself, a sadhaka who is constantly engaged in hearing their katha should reside always in Vrindavan.
Yes. So one should constantly remember Krishna and one should always reside in Vrindavan. Those who cannot physically reside in Vrindavan, the acharyas say mentally one should always try to reside in Sri Vrindavan. Actually, that is the purpose of life for every sadhaka who is progressing on the path of bhakti. Sometimes devotees argue over this point that which is the best type of sadhana. Is japa the best type of sadhana? Is kirtan the best type of sadhana? Or is smaran the best type of sadhana for a progressing sadhaka? So the answer is given by Sri Sanatan Goswami in his Brihad Bhagavatamritam. Kindly repeat after me. Pritiryato yasya sukham chayena samyak bhavet tadrasikasya tasya tat sadhanam shreshtatamam susevyam sadbhirmatam pratyuta sadhya rupam. So Pritir Yato Yasya, whatever amongst these three gives us the best happiness. If Japa gives us the best happiness, Japa should be selected as the sadhana. If Kirtan gives us the best happiness, Kirtan should be selected. If Smaran gives us the highest happiness, it should be selected as our sadhana. But in our society, ISKCON, the only thing is one should chant their 16 rounds first, and after that, whichever mode of sadhana gives one the highest happiness, samyak bhavet, that is the best means of attainment of the highest truth for that sadhaka. Tat sadhanam shreshtatamam, that is the best sadhana for every sadhaka, which gives the highest happiness to the sadhaka in the mind. Pratyuta sadhya rupam, that sadhana, that means becomes the goal for that particular practitioner of Bhakti Yoga. Dear devotees, sometimes devotees say that Kirtan is the best because Kirtan is the process for this age. But Sri Sanatan Goswami also says that for some sadhakas, they would love to perform Smaran more than Kirtan. Sri Sanatan Goswami says, Tat tat sankirtane napi, tatha syad yadi shakyate, satam atha viviktepi lajja syad svaira kirtane. Sometimes you cannot express some feelings in Kirtan, which you can express during your Smaran. Therefore, some sadhakas prefer to perform Smarana over Kirtana. Dear devotees, in this way, these three sadhanas, please repeat after me. The first is Japa, the second is Kirtana, and the third is Smarana. They should be performed by all the sadhakas with very nice care and attention in their day-to-day lives. Once again, I will summarize. Japa is silent, soft chanting of Krishna's names that only one can hear oneself. Sometimes devotees chant loud or audible japa. That is also japa, but it has entered into the category of kirtan or audible chanting. Kirtan is audible chanting and glorification of Krishna's names, forms, qualities, pastimes, etc. And Smaran is mental remembrance of Krishna's name, forms, qualities, pastimes, etc. So these three are very simple. Japa is soft chanting of Krishna's names. Kirtan is loud, audible glorification of Krishna's names, form, quality. And Smaran is mental remembrance of Krishna's name, form, qualities. With this, dear devotees, I would like to once again repeat the definition of Japa that was previously specified, and I will pause the class at this point of time after this verse. Kindly repeat after me. Mano madhye sthito mantro, mantra madhye sthitam manah, mano mantra samayuktam, etadhi japa lakshanam. The mantra firmly situated in the mind firmly situated in the mantra. Such a seamless connection of the mind and the mantra is the characteristic of ideal japa. Thank you very much, dear devotees. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna. So do we have time for questions or queries? Yes. Okay. We'll take the questions on Zoom, but if somebody in the class wants to say something, then we can have that. Or yes.
Thank you so much, Prabhu, for the nice detail about different things. So, I had a question about Asmaran. So, what is the way to remember?
What is the way to remember?
Best way, like in daily life, we can remember. Is it reading books or listening others, or what is the best?
So the best way to remember Krishna is described by Srila Prabhupada himself in a very small paragraph in the Nectar of Instruction. And I will specify this paragraph. This paragraph is very important for all sadhakas to understand, because in this one purport, I believe Srila Prabhupada has given a lot of important advice for the sadhakas. Can you see this paragraph in the neophyte stage? Yes, this is 8th verse of Nectar of Instruction. I will read this paragraph. In the neophyte stage, one should always engage. In the neophyte stage, one should always engage in hearing Krishna Katha. So when a person is a new devotee, he should always engage in hearing. This is called Shravan Dasha, the stage of hearing. This is the first stage for everyone. By constantly hearing the transcendental holy name of Krishna and hearing of his transcendental form, qualities, and pastimes, one can come to the stage of acceptance called Varana Dasha. So after hearing about Krishna, the devotee comes to accept Krishna as the goal of his or her life. That is known as Varana Dasha, or the stage of acceptance. When one attains this stage, he becomes attached to the hearing of Krishna Katha. Then comes the point which you are speaking. When one is able to chant in ecstasy, he attains the stage of Smaran Avastha, the stage of remembering. Then Prabhupada specifies 5 subcategories within Smaran. What are those 5? He says recollection, absorption, meditation, constant remembrance, and trance. These are the 5 items of progressive Krishna Smaran. Our acharyas have given technical names to these. These are known as Smaran, Dharana, Dhyan, Dhruvanusmriti, and Samadhi. These are 5 technical names. Srila Prabhupada has translated them in English. Then he says, at first, remembrance of Krishna may be interrupted at intervals, but later remembrance proceeds uninterrupted. So this entire paragraph is basically about how the sadhaka progresses into Smaran. First, you begin with general remembrance. At any point of time, once in a day at least, a sadhaka should try to remember Krishna's pastimes. Srila Prabhupada also said that before taking rest at night, one should read Krishna book. The sole aim of reading Krishna book being that at least once in the day, the devotee should favorably remember Krishna, Smaran. So this reading of Krishna book is for facilitating one's Smaran. Prabhupada also acknowledges in the beginning, it may be broken, it may not be so consistent, but later a time will come when Smaran will proceed uninterrupted. When that happens, what will happen? He says when remembrance is uninterrupted, it becomes concentrated and is called meditation. It becomes dharana, dhyan actually. When meditation expands and becomes constant, it is called as anusmriti. Anusmriti means now you don't have to put the effort, it automatically comes to you. And by uninterrupted and unceasing anusmriti, one enters into the stage of samadhi or spiritual trance. So these are the 5 stages of Smaran. After Smaran Dasha or Samadhi has fully developed, the soul comes to understand his constitutional position. At that time, he can perfectly and clearly understand his eternal relationship with Krishna. That is called Sampatti Dasha, the perfection of life. So see, in one paragraph, we began with neophyte stage. And by the end of the paragraph, we have ended up in receiving our Swarup Siddhi. So this one paragraph, I believe, is one of the most important paragraphs in Srila Prabhupada's books, which every sadhaka should understand, because the entire process of Raganuga Bhajan goes through Smaran, and there are many quotes in the Shastra to prove this. So it is very important that all sadhakas should understand what is the value of Smaran. And without understanding the value of Smaran, it may be difficult to enter into the pathways of Raganuga Bhakti. In the beginning, it may be broken, but later it proceeds uninterrupted. So that is the reply given in the words of Srila Prabhupada himself. I hope this satisfies your query. Thank you. Okay, can we take the questions on Zoom now, Prabhu? Yes, so on Zoom we are taking questions. Akashwani, yes. So who is the first one?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dhanvat Pranam Jai Srila Prabhupada. I am the first one, Prabhu. So, Prabhu, in the first slide, you have shown what is ideal japa. In that, Srila Prabhupada answer is saying that no, concentrate on the vibration, simply hear. It is very easy. If I say Hare, you can hear. Even without concentration, it is so easy. So, even without concentration means what, Prabhu? Unless we concentrate, we cannot even hear, right? So, how do we understand that?
No, even without concentration, we can hear. For example, I am sitting here, outside there are many vehicles going, and there is the noise of all the vehicles, but I am not concentrating on which vehicle it is. If I decide to concentrate on which vehicle it is, I can figure out probably it's a truck or it's a motorcycle, but it's entering into my ears. So that is hearing without concentration. But if I decide upon hearing attentively, then perhaps I'll be able to make out whether it's a truck or it's a car or whether it's a bike. So that is the difference between hearing without concentration and hearing with concentration. So sometimes the sounds enter into our mind and into our ears, but the mind has nothing to do with it. The mind disconnects from those sounds. That is hearing without concentration. And when the mind is paying close attention to the sounds which are entering into our ears, that is hearing with concentration. And Srila Prabhupada said hearing with concentration is required. So that is the answer to the query.
So hearing with concentration, right, Prabhu?
Yes.
Okay.
3 limbs are required: mouth, ears, and mind.
Right. Yes, Prabhu. Thank you so much, Prabhu, for the wonderful narrations, Prabhu. Prabhu, another question is like, who would actually chant Manasika Japa, Prabhuji? Second initiate devotees, they would chant Gayatri Mantra, I understand that. But who would actually do Manasika Japa, Prabhuji?
So all the devotees who are second initiated, they chant, usually when they chant their second initiation mantras, they chant in such a way that nobody is able to hear. So that is, it mostly falls under the category of Manasika Japa. And if you are asking about Hare Krishna Mahamantra, the aim of Hare Krishna Mahamantra is to be chanted in Kirtan mainly and in Japa, soft Japa. So this is the aim of Hare Krishna Mahamantra in this age, that to chant in loud Kirtan and to chant in soft Japa. So Hare Krishna Mahamantra, we usually do not see devotees chanting mentally, but other mantras which are best out during second initiation, those are chanted mentally in the Mansik way by the devotees. So that is the answer to the query.
So, Prabhu, my last question would be like, the difference, I'm not able to rightly understand the difference between the Kirtana and the Smarana, because you were mentioning in the beginning of the, our presentation today's, that through Kirtana, we can also do the remembrance of the Lord, Smarana.
Right.
So when the audible, I could understand the difference by your presentation, Prabhu, that audible, Kirtan is audible chanting and remembering Krishna, but not mentally. But Smarana is the pastimes and everything, remembering Krishna through mind, mentally. But when we are doing Kirtan and all that, we don't remember the Lord mentally, Prabhu. Can you please put some light on that, Prabhu?
No, Kirtan facilitates Smaran. While chanting Kirtan also, one should have mantra artha chintanam. That is, one should focus on the meanings of the words, and one can remember Krishna's names, Krishna's forms, Krishna's qualities and pastimes while chanting loud Kirtan. Just like we have Jai Radha Madhav Kirtan. So when one is chanting Jai Radha Madhav, it's not that the mind is supposed to be blank. So Jai Radha Madhav means the mind should obviously have Smaran or remembrance of everything that is being described in the Kirtan. So Kirtan facilitates Smaran. Smaran in turn gives one enthusiasm to perform more Kirtan. It is called Anyonya Ashray, mutual dependence on each other. So that is the relationship between Kirtan and Smaran. Anyonya Ashray means both are mutually dependent on each other. Kirtan facilitates Smaran, Smaran facilitates Kirtan. Kirtan is the Yuga Dharma for Kali Yuga. Smaran is most important for Raganuga Bhakti. So both are important for sadhakas. One cannot discount Smaran simply by saying that Kirtan is most important for Kali Yuga. Yes, Kirtan is most important for Kali Yuga, but for the personal progress of the sadhaka, Smaran is most important. For the personal bhajan of the sadhaka, Smaran is considered to be most important. And one cannot discount Kirtan by saying only Smaran is important, because Kirtan is the Yuga Dharma for this age of Kali. So both things are required for a progressing sadhaka. Therefore, Srila Prabhupada gave equal importance to both of them. He propagated chanting and he named the society International Society for Krishna Consciousness. So both things are important for us. That is the answer to your query.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. One small clarification is, so we are, promised to our spiritual master that we would chant 16 rounds. So that 16 rounds should be, Upamshu, right, Prabhuji?
Yeah, if the spiritual master says Vachika, then it should be Vachika. Vachika is also Japa, but technically it has entered into the category of Kirtan. It can be called Japa, but it is mixed with Kirtan. But whatever the spiritual master has advised us, we should follow the instructions of the spiritual master. I have given the opinions of the previous acharyas. Previous acharyas say Upamshu or soft is the best type of Japa. It is Japa which does not have any elements of Kirtan or Smaran. But whatever the Guru advises us, that advice should be accepted by the disciple in their daily chanting of japa. I also specified which type of japa Srila Prabhupada expected from his disciples. Srila Prabhupada expected the disciples to chant softly, not loud, so that he will be disturbed. So that also I have specified through a quote, but still every disciple should get clarification from their guru as to which type of japa they should be chanting.
Yeah, Prabhu, at the time of initiation, usually we don't get any instruction, from a spiritual master, right, Prabhu? I mean, chant this kind of japa or something like that. So, is it okay to take Srila Prabhupada's instruction, what you have showed, Prabhu? We need to specifically ask our spiritual master which type of japa should I do,
Usually, the spiritual master may not say anything against soft japa, but if it is possible to ask once, it is always best. So that is my suggestion in this regard. Thank you very much.
Yeah, Prabhuji. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Okay, who is next?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhu, my question is, what is the reason for Lord Krishna in Bhagavad Gita as it is, chapter 10, the opulence of the Absolute, to choose Japa as the sacrifice which represents him as one of his opulences? Why not the sacrifice related, for example, to the honoring of Prasad?
Right. So in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Yagyanam Japa Yagyosmi. Amongst all sacrifices, I am the Japa Yagya, chanting. Here he is referring to specifically soft chanting, not soft chanting, but the chanting of the Gayatri mantra, because that chanting is the traditional chanting which is passed down in Guru Shishya Parampara, in the Guru tradition. So Yagyanam Japa Yagyosmi. Amongst all types of yagyas, I am the chanting of the Veda mantras, especially Gayatri. So this is the explanation of the traditional acharyas, because Gayatri represents the essence of all the Vedas. All the Vedas are condensed into Gayatri, and by chanting Gayatri, one essentially chants the essence of all the Vedas. So therefore, amongst all types of chanting, Krishna says, I am chanting, I am japa. But japa specifically of what? The acharyas in the commentary specify that chanting of the Gayatri mantra and other Veda mantras as given by the Guru, because those mantras are the essence of the entirety of all Vedas. And that is what Krishna is saying in that particular verse. So I hope that clarifies.
Yes, Prabhu, thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yes. Who's next on Zoom? Ayushi Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Hare Parshad, Prabhuji, please accept my humble obeisances. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Prabhuji, I have two questions. The first is, sometimes during chanting, it becomes very difficult for me to chant alone. And then I mute the Vrindavan Parikrama video on YouTube, and I chant along with seeing the video. I have been doing it for quite some time now, as it helps me immensely, because it makes me feel that I'm in Vrindavan Dham and chanting in the Dham. So am I doing it on my mind's dictation? I mean, is it a proper way of chanting, Prabhuji, or not?
The proper way of performing japa is, mind should be situated in the mantra. Mantra should be situated in the mind. That is actually japa. That is the characteristic of ideal japa. Sometimes devotees say that while chanting, can I perform certain smaran? So the answer to that was given in one of the slides by Sri Sanatan Goswami. I will show that slide once again. And in that slide, Sanatan Goswami says in the very end, Kvachitcha namnah smaranam shanai shanair ishad ucharanam gyayam. He said, Kvachitcha namnah smaranam. Sometimes the devotee stops chanting and remembers. Then again, the devotee continues to chant and focus on the name. So it's not that the devotee mixes two things, mixes thinking of Vrindavan and chanting on the beads. So these two things are not to be mixed ideally, because thinking of Vrindavan is smaran and japa is a separate activity. So in japa, these three limbs should fall in line: the mouth, the ears and the mind. And the focus should be on the sound vibration. So that is the characteristic of ideal japa. And the mantra itself also has a meaning. Hare Krishna mantra also has a meaning of itself. So the mind should focus on the mantra artha chintanam, It should focus on the meaning of the mantra. That is ideal japa. If we are thinking about something else like Vrindavan, it is good, but technically we are performing Smaran and the japa is getting neglected. The sound vibration is getting neglected. So it is very important that when we are performing japa, we should not neglect the sound vibration. The sound vibration should be paid close and careful attention. And Sri Sanatan Goswami says, sometimes, if required, pause japa for some time and perform Smaran. But then again, you have, when you begin your japa, then you should focus on the japa. In the Yoga Shastras, there is a very nice verse which is popularly known amongst the yogis. Japat shrantah punardhyayet dhyanat shrantah punarjapet. If one is tired from japa, one should meditate. If one is tired from meditation, one should chant. So this is very good. This separates two activities, and it's good to have the clear borders between these three activities: japa, kirtan, and smaran, because good fences make good neighbors. So it is good to have clear boundaries so that we understand what is the purpose. Is our purpose remembering Krishna? Then let's engage in smaran. Is our purpose focusing on Krishna's names? Then let's engage in japa. Is our purpose to benefit others? Then let's engage in kirtan. Once these boundaries are distinctly known, then the sadhaka has absolutely no confusion in what they want to do. So I hope that clarifies what you wanted to ask.
Yes, Prabhuji, absolutely. Actually, this is a perfect explanation, Prabhuji. And the second one is like Prabhuji in Brajdham, there are many sampradayas. So there are many friends of mine who would generally ask why Hare Krishna Mahamantra only in this age, and I would just tell them that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who came 500 years ago, he instructed. But I just wanted to know that what should be your answer to such people who would say that, okay, when we go to Banki Bihari temple, they would say another mantra like Shri Kunj Bihari, Shri Haridas, and ISKCON people would do Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So is the destination for both the devotees same?
Okay. So this question itself indicates that there is a confusion between two terms. The confusion is between the two terms Naam and Mantra. What is Naam? Naam is any name of Krishna mentioned in Shastra is called Naam. What is Mantra? Specific names mentioned in the Veda Shastras as Mantra. These are to be chanted as Japa. They are known as Mantra. Hare Krishna Mahamantra is mentioned in the Upanishads, which is Shruti. In the Kali Santarana Upanishad, the Hare Krishna Mahamantra is clearly mentioned as a mantra. It is Shruti mantra. It is mantra which has been derived from the Vedas. Now somebody may make, like I can also make a collection of names, but that remains Naam. The technical category it falls into is Naam. So Naam Kirtan and Mantra Japa are two different things. Nama Kirtan, it says Evam Vratah Swapriya Nama Kirtya. Naam Kirtan, one can chant one's favorite names, whatever one likes. Jai Radha Madhav Kunj Bihari Gopi Jan Vallabh Giri Vardhari. If this song was written by Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur. So this is Naam Kirtan. But Mantra are those which are eternally specified in the Vedas. Those are supposed to be chanted in Japa. So why do we chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra? Why not just chant Jai Radha Madhav Kunj Bihari on the beads? The answer is because there is a difference between chanting Naam and chanting Japa. The difference is that Japa has to be performed on mantras which are mentioned in the Vedas. Those mantras have to be bestowed by a guru in Guru Shishya Parampara. That is the difference between chanting Naam and chanting Japa. So I hope that clarifies the difference.
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Please accept my humble obeisances. Thank you. Very nice, wonderful class. My question is, you already answered about the Mansu Japa that you mentioned, but I still have a small doubt. It's I've heard that when we chant loudly, a little bit loudly, so trees, birds, that atmosphere gets purified. So we are not only doing for ourselves. And I agree with you when you say Mansu Japa. Sometimes I get tired chanting really loudly for longer time. So is that that's fine? Like, and then I was thinking I have to chant louder because of whatever it is. It's an atmosphere I'm trying to also benefit, so they can benefit. So
Yeah. So if the intention is to benefit, then perform kirtan. We should be clear in our purpose. If the intention is to benefit others, then we are not thinking about japa. We are thinking about kirtan. If the intention is to benefit oneself, then we should think about japa. As soon as a devotee thinks my intention is more to benefit others, they are thinking on the lines of kirtan or sankirtan. So therefore the acharyas have distinguished kirtan from japa. I have specified the verse earlier and I will specify the verse again. And this verse is there in the Chaitanya Bhagavat. Japile Shri Krishna Naam apane se tare, Uchcha Sankirtane par upakar kare. Japile Shri Krishna Naam, one who chants japa, apana se tare. The purpose is to deliver oneself. Uchcha Sankirtane, loud kirtan is for benefiting others, par upakar kare. This verse itself makes it clear that there is a distinction in the purposes for japa and kirtan. So one should first determine within one's mind what is one's purpose. If one's purpose is to benefit others, then kirtan. One's purpose is to benefit oneself, then japa. That is the answer to the query.
thank you, Prabhuji. And I have two more questions. You said Raganuga Bhakti, the spontaneously, and you explain it comes after some time, and so we cannot suddenly, even if it's been so many years, but if it doesn't, how do we know that we are qualified for Raganuga, and we can? It's not sahajya, right? Sometimes we do Raganuga. We have to do Vaidhi Bhakti for a long time, and I don't know when is the time, but if you can talk about it.
So I'll just very briefly mention it. It's not that we have to do Vaidhi for long time and then we become qualified. The thing is, there is only one distinguishing factor between Vaidhi Bhakti and Raganuga Bhakti. That factor is technically known as Lobha. Lobha is intense greed for the mood of a Brajavasi. But that Lobha cannot be artificially faked. One cannot say that today, henceforth, I am going to practice Raganuga. From Monday, I am going to practice Raganuga Bhakti. That's not how it works. For Raganuga Bhakti, the pre-qualification, the prerequisite is Lobha. What is Lobha? Lobha is defined by the Acharyas as an intense greed to achieve the mood of one of the eternally perfected associates of Lord Krishna, the Brajavasis, also known as Ragatmika Bhaktas. When one has spontaneous Lobha within one's heart, then one understands that one is gradually moving towards Raganuga Bhakti. Then Srila Rupa Goswami has given further instructions in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu to attain the platform of Raganuga Bhakti for such a person. One thing should be clearly understood. Without Raganuga Bhakti, it is not possible to attain Goloka Vrindavan. This Siddhanta should be understood by all sadhakas. How many of us here want to attain Goloka Vrindavan? Please raise your hands. Yes. But dear devotees, it is not possible without Raganuga Bhakti. Why is it not possible? Because the Chaitanya Charitamrita already has mentioned that in Adilila 3.15, I am sharing the screen. Please repeat after me. Sakala Jagat More Kare Vidhi Bhakti Vidhi Bhakti Vraja Bhava Paite Nahi Shakti. So, everyone in the world, people worship me, Krishna is saying, according to scriptural injunctions. But simply by following such regulative principles, one cannot attain the loving sentiments of the devotees in Vrajabhumi. Hence proved. It is very clearly mentioned in the Chaitanya Charitamrita itself that simply by following rules and regulations of Vaidhi Bhakti, it is impossible to attain the mood of the Vrajavasis. Therefore, Raganuga Bhakti is a must, but one cannot fake Raganuga Bhakti. It's not even a question of time. It can happen even today, as long as the main factor is present within the heart, that is Lobha, intense greed to achieve the mood of the Brajavasis. But that Lobha cannot be faked. It is an intensely personal matter and it is not something to be displayed in public, but we all should know what is the Siddhanta. So I specified from the writings of the Acharyas. So I hope that clarifies the query.
Yes, Prabhuji, very, very nicely explained, Prabhuji. Thank you for taking your time. And one last small question. When you said that Gayatri, every time I've been thinking, and I always have a doubt about, is Gayatri Devi. I grew up in the town in India where Gayatri Devi we used to go, and but is the Gayatri is different, right? What is it same related to Gayatri Devi when we do Gayatri? Is it different, or what? If you can talk a little bit about Gayatri.
Actually, this is a topic pertaining to second initiation. So I am not sure if everybody is adhikari or eligible to hear about this. So I will not speak anything about the mantra, but you are asking about Gayatri. So I will speak about something which everybody can in general hear, but I will not explain anything about the mantra. It is said Tri Sandhya. There are 3 Sandhyas. In the morning we say Dhyayans Tuvams Tasya Yashas Tri Sandhyams. There are 3 Sandhyas. What are Sandhyas? Sandhi refers to a joint. In our body there is Sandhi. There are many joints. So Sandhi refers to a joint, not in the body, but in the day. For example, the joint of the night and the morning is known as the first Sandhya. Jai. Shri Shri Radha Girdhari ki Jai. Hare Krishna. So there are 3 Sandhyas or 3 times: the joining of the night and the day, the joining of the day and the evening, and the joining of the morning and the afternoon, and the joining of the noon and the evening. Hare Krishna. So these 3 are known as Sandhyas, and every Sandhya has its presiding deity. The presiding deity of the first Sandhya is Gayatri. The presiding deity of the second Sandhya is Savitri. The presiding deity of the third Sandhya is Saraswati. These are the 3 presiding deities of the 3 Sandhyas. These 3 deities are honored when we are chanting the 3 Sandhyas. So that is what we should know. But beyond this, it is not possible to explain in public because it is a matter of adhikar for chanting Gayatri. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Very, very.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much. Haribol.
Yes. Do we have time? Yeah. I'm okay with it, but I'm okay answering all the questions. No, Prabhu, if you say no, we'll stop here. Yeah. Yeah. So I think we'll stop here because we should have some time for Kirtan. Thank you. Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay, thank you very much, Hari Parshad, for visiting us and speaking tonight. So now, if everybody could just place their mats in the back, and we'll have some kirtan. And then before everybody goes, if you could please grab a box of prasadam, it's there on the patio.